One one way of like dealing with all of these things has come from feminist theory, because as a feminist professional, I instead of seeing things as individual burdens for people to carry, you tend to start thinking from a systems mindset. You start thinking of how interconnected the different systems that are serving you and you are entangled in are. So instead of thinking about mental health as something that's going to be like just me suffering, I start to think of mental health from more of a communal lens. I start to think of mental health from more of a lens. What are my circumstances? How do I respond to my circumstances? How are my circumstances responding to me? How are the systems that I belong in affecting my mental health? And all of those little things, all of those little decisions, all of those little choices directly contribute to whatever mental well-being I need to have. First and foremost, we just do the simple the basic hierarchy of needs diagram. I think everybody has seen it. You need basic survival before you choose anything else. And I think right now, especially as young people, the economy is really bad. Um, you don't know if you're going to find a job, hold a job. If you're at a job, you're supposed to be subservient. You're not supposed to cause any issues. You're not supposed to be. You're just like really supposed to just follow whatever you're being told and make the bare minimum money. And I think that is really really jarring for young people, because we are a generation that's been raised on social media. We're a generation who does not like to take like anyone's crap. We're like, if it's not working for me, I'm just not doing it. If you're not going to pay me for 8 hours, I'm not going to spend I'm not going to spend 8 hours at your workplace. We're the generation who like really cannot take crap. It's as simple as that. And then you go to workplaces and they are set up by older people, older generations who believe that going through hardship makes you stronger. So they put you through hardship. And then you're already suffering and struggling, and you don't have enough money, and your job is hellish, and you have to find a partner, or you have to stay with your partner who who can oftentimes be toxic and abusive in other ways as well. So it's the time of our lives adds to the burden. So it's not a mental illness that you're responding oftentimes. It's your circumstances. And then so a lot of the times we tend to think that if we challenge our thoughts, if we really just like individualize our response to all of these things will get better. But oftentimes it's just the it's a response to the power structures that we're stuck in. They're constantly marginalizing us. They're constantly putting us in positions where we have to pick which part of ourselves to be saved at a point of our life. And I think because of all of these things, it becomes a little harder to take care of your mental health, because it's not as simple as just going to a doctor. You need a good job. You need to able to survive. You need a respectable space in your community. It's just like so many little things. So what I respond to it is that it's very hard being yourself in this society, but it's the only thing that's going to bring you peace. You might be, you might feel like something's wrong with you, but the only thing a lot of the times that's wrong is your circumstances. And you are fully capable of making a dent in those circumstances. Do not take abuse from people. Recognize when you are the signs of abuse. When somebody is mistreating you, whether it's a job, whether in your home, whether a partner or your family or your friends, do not take abuse. Do not take abuse, because in the end, nobody is going to save you except yourself. You are the first person who's going to recognize something is wrong, and you need to take action. And then, of course, your loved ones will step in, and of course, they will be your support. And then, of course, the systems will set in where you can go to a doctor and get meds and get support. But if you see the line of thought I'm talking about, I'm not talking about people with severe mental illnesses, because that's a completely different story. When I was extremely depressed, and I um, was in a very, very bad state of head, none of what I'm saying would have applied to me at all. I'm talking about people who are struggling without diagnosis. People who might go to a doctor and that doctor will say you don't have a depression disorder, you don't really need medication, but you're still so miserable. And I'm talking about how your different identities as a young person, as a woman, as a man, how, as a Pakistani, as a member of the society, how they create mental troubles for you. Instead of just like focusing on a pathological model where the only thing you talk about is disease and the only thing you talk about is what do you do when you're extremely mentally ill. Instead of talking about illness, I'm preferring to talk about well-being. I'm preferring to talk about just mental health in general, because I feel like the illness model um, really makes you helpless. You don't know what to do with it, and I am not a psychologist, and I'm not qualified enough to talk about the illness model. So I really don't try to. Um, I have a tough time going longer in a monologue, so I would love to respond to any questions or have like a one-on-one discussion rather than just me keeping talking and for so long. So I think I will stop here if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Myra. That's so true. Like, while you are discussing these things, these are like the exact situations that I I feel that I was facing or I am facing, and literally in this society, even if you earn and even if you earn more than boys, then you will not be given the same respect as them. For example, I often joke around in my office with my female colleagues that the amount we are earning, obviously I work in a good software company, the amount we are earning, if some boy is earning in our middle class homes, they will be like, oh, our Raja beta, and they will give very special protocols to him. Or even like if we look towards our male colleagues, they are like treated as prince at their homes due to the fact that they are earning a certain amount, which is considered reasonable uh, in our society, maybe in middle class homes at least. So the treatment is so different that I can't even explain it. I can't even put it together. And plus, I have a like question for you. As you are working for the gender rights and mental health of women in Pakistan, how did you face the people? Like, it's such a negative word to say or you to identify yourself as a feminist these days in Pakistan. All the propaganda related to women's right and these things, yeah, if you introduce yourself feminist or you even mention during a discussion that you are feminist, you are like looked with such a negative vibe. It is like cool nowadays in Pakistan to hate feminists or hate any person who is talking about women's rights. It's in fashion these days, what I basically feel.
Uh, yes, I know. Literally every time I talk about it, uh, I'm told you should just leave the country. You should not stay here. Like it's an ugly feeling to be made to feel like you do not belong in your own home. To constantly be told that you don't belong here. All of these thoughts don't belong here. Why would you say that? Like this, this is a respectable society. Like just, but you know what? I have found ways around it. One of the things that my younger self would get really mad at is when somebody would not let me talk about these issues. I would double down on it and I will talk about it in their face until they'd listen to me, because I was like, who are you to tell me anything at all about my life and my views? And I would double down on using the word feminism and I will double down on confrontation. But what I realized that confrontation oftentimes does not work. It does not. It's not something that serves your cause. It does not serve something that serves you. So, but if you don't confront, you feel like a bad feminist. You feel like you're not a good feminist. You're a bad feminist who is not standing up for your cause. You are a hypocrite who, when it's like time to do something about something, who is backing out. So What I've realized is you need to keep your goal in mind. And the goal is you want A, to live your life in the way you want to in the society. You want control and autonomy over your life. And then you also want social change. You want control and autonomy for other women in your society as well. So what you do is you do a little bit of an espionage. And you insert conversations about it everywhere. You don't use the word feminism, but you practice feminism. You talk about feminist values without having to name that they are feminist values. You talk about uh, things that are entirely about feminism. You talk about equal pay. You talk about sharing of sharing childcare responsibilities. But instead of talking about it in a feminist argument, you talk about it in a desi respectable argument where the instead of saying that you know it's a man's duty to take care of his children because they're also his children, and like it's just common sense that he should do so, like that defensive tone, you change it to like, look how good they look together when they do it together. They have like such love between them.
Yes, exactly. You have to sugarcoat words, or in most of the cases, you have to like wrap them in Islamic ideology so that people don't mind of them. For
Exactly. So
example, if I am quoting something from a woman's rights perspective, maybe like people would not care. But if I wrap those words in like from an Islamic lens, which is like religious is a big part of our society, so then they are fine with it. So
exactly.
most of the people are fine with the idea, but they just don't want that we are getting these values from somewhere else, which is like
Exactly.
hypocritic in my point of view.
It is hypocritical, but you also have to understand, are you fighting for an ideology? Are you
Yes,
fighting for
exactly.
feminism? Or are you fighting for the things feminism wants? Are you
Exactly.
fighting for the right for women to work? Or are
Exactly.
you fighting for the right for women to work in the name of feminism? So it's
Exactly.
really about defining your goals, and that can really make a change in your life. It does not make you a bad feminist. It does not make you weak. It does not make you someone who's not standing up to her values. It makes you strategic. It makes you focused on your goals. It makes you adapt, and it also makes you recognize that a lot of the times our society has been burned by the West. Post 9/11, a lot of bad stuff has happened to Pakistan. We are all very well aware of the amount of terrorism Pakistan faced and a lot of different political scenarios that have happened in this country at the hands of imperial powers. So there is a very strongly established suspicion of any thought that's not homegrown. So it's important to focus on what you want to accomplish rather than whether you have accomplished it in the righteous feminist way or not. Because feminism is about making sure everybody has autonomy, everybody is respected, everybody has equal opportunity. It's not a fanatical ideology where the only one who does it right is the one who calls themselves a feminist. We are not a religion. So let's
Exactly.
try
So
to
it is
think.
also my advice to all the other girls who are trying to achieve it, that be strategic about it. And instead of putting it out front, you have to wrap it up in like the things that society accepts, because like it is our compulsion to do this, because the nature of the surroundings we are in a country like Pakistan.
But I have to mention, this does not mean you become subservient. This does not mean whatever society wants you to do. This just means you rebel. You need to rebel. You need to rebel. Just you have to rebel strategically. You find ways
Exactly.
for little acts of microfeminism in everything you do. Is there somewhere you can you everybody else is going to be wearing a dupatta, you choose not to wear a dupatta. You're like, I don't want to. And here, even if I get some criticism, it's not going to be that bad. Nobody's going to mind, but it's going to leave an impact on people's life that have made a decision like that in this gathering. You go ahead and do it. You do not conform, you just do it in ways that serve the goal that you're doing. It's not about sticking to whatever the society is saying. Let's never do that. Let's always be rebellious. Just let's be rebellious in ways that keeps us safe and that gets our goal. Because the process is very hard, it's exhausting, so we should get results.
Yes, and we should adopt all the ways that are even possible in our surroundings to do so, to
Yeah.
achieve some.
Uh, I can respond to the questions if that's all right.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move to the questions in the chat because these are the questions I received directly on WhatsApp by the participants who have joined. So, moving to the first question, what inspired you to begin speaking openly about mental health, especially as a feminist academic in Pakistan?
Hmm. So I'm not an academic actually. I work as a consultant, but I completely understand the question. Um, I think my inspiration came out of I was just a young person who was really, really mad at the world. And I was a young person who was really rebellious when it came to, I did not want to be told what to do. And especially when I was suffering and I was miserable and I had depression and I did not know what to do. And I also sometimes lacked social cues. So I would like not know that if I'm saying something in a gathering, people are going to mind it. Rather, the people will come and tell me later on, Mara, this you're gonna Mara, other people are talking about this, that what you're saying is not okay. And I'm like, who cares about what they say? It's about what I am saying. If what I am saying is serving other people, if I talk about it, many people come and talk to confide in me. If one person speaks about it, you become a precedent for other people. And for me, it's always been like, it's okay if I sacrifice a little bit of respectability on my behalf if it gives courage to someone else to speak up. And it's been really it's that has been my MO my entire life. Like I talk about it. I know I get criticized for it. I know it affects my personal life. I know people make judgments on my character on my behalf, but then I meet such amazing people in the process who come and talk to me about their experiences, and for me that's worth it. For me that a bargain is worth it. So for it's just been like that. I weighed the pros and cons of talking and not talking, and I realized that I could take the cons, and I went for it.
Yeah,
Myra, how
being
do you think that being a Fulbright scholar has played a part in your journey? Because, in my opinion, these kind of exchange programs and scholarships play a huge role in shaping your personality. Being an alumnus of an exchange program myself, I think that it suddenly shifts your whole mindset. The amount of exposure you receive in such a limited time, like it's basically a life changing journey on my part.
Mm, I agree. I was on UGrad previous to this, and that was, and obviously you are much younger when you go on UGrad, and it was honestly, it was definitely a life changing journey. But what's also been life changing for me is that when I was in my undergrad, I was in another city where my family was not around. I had to take on a lot of my entire life's responsibility, and I think that independence teaches you a lot of things. Even in the exchange program, it's the independence you have. It's the fact that you have to figure out everything for yourself. That in the process of doing so, you realize what you like, who you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. And I think that is a very powerful process. A lot of women in Pakistan oftentimes do not have the independence to depend on themselves and to realize their own strengths. So I think that just stepping away and being on my own was a very powerful experience.
Exactly, and I want to give credit to all these selection committees that are designed for these programs. Like they usually pick such an amazing candidates. I have never met even one candidate who is an alumnus of an a prestigious exchange program or scholarship like Fulbright or UGrad or something, and all of them are impressive in their own ways. So they really have the pipeline set. There is a reason that these people when, when will I cannot explain, but when you see at the profiles of those students, after a few years, you really admire the committees for their selection process. Do you think?
It's also luck. Nasiba.
Yes, it is. But I feel all the fellow girls I have met during my exchange program, I'm very impressed by all of them. So they really pick people who knows how to navigate through things.
I mean, yes, they do have, I think their rubrics are very much about people who can bring change, who go beyond themselves. And I think that in itself, anyone who has any level of leadership quality, inspires other people.
Absolutely. So Myra, being the like fifth daughter of a very male dominant family, I have in one way or the other, I've experienced uh, the things which you just mentioned, and like I have been in those spots. So in my opinion, like my parents were the pillars. They were very supportive in terms of like, okay, even if we have five daughters, we are gonna educate them and we're gonna make them equivalent to, we are gonna give them the same opportunity as people give to their sons. So what do you think, how much a healthy family and supportive parents do play a role in terms of like shaping a successful career for women especially?
I think there is nothing more important than a safe family, than a family that supports you. I mean, that's just, if you have a backup system, if you have support, if you have support where you go out, you make a mistake, and you have someone to come back to who will listen to you instead of yelling at you, I think those people are the ones who succeed the most in the world. They are the ones who are the happiest. So I think as young people who are, probably a lot of us are eventually going to enter parenthood very soon as well. That's something we all need to ponder on, that do we want to become such parents to our kids? Because it really does set you up for a lot of, even if it doesn't make you rich, even it, like, you don't have to be successful in terms of money. You can just be happy. And I've seen really a lot of people with good families, um, families that supported them, be happy. And I think with families where there's more trauma, and more disturbances, I've seen people, even at the height of success, be quite miserable. So your support system where you live, it matters the most out of anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, so any tips or suggestions for, like, of course, everyone do not get the privilege of having a very supportive family, parents who do understand it. Of course, they do, like, they have experiences more than us, but at times there are families who have, their deep down issues to which, due to which, like, the children are suffering. Any suggestions or tips for them to hang on to that ray of hope and to pull themselves together in times of need?
What, as someone who has a messy family life, my recommendation would be, sit with yourself and figure out what you want. What are the things in your life that are non-negotiables? For me, being able to make my own money was a non-negotiable, because that brought me power and freedom and peace. And so every time I struggled to get permission, I would strategically try to get permission for the things that would eventually support my education. So I think it's very important to, when it's hard for you to get permission, or it's hard for you to get support for everything you do in your life, it's important to recognize what is it that you actually want, and strategically make sure that the give and takes do not involve, you don't give what you actually want. It's okay to perhaps not go to a friend's house sometime, but it's not okay to not go on an educational retreat. So it's important for you to recognize which battles are worth fighting for, because not all of them are. And it's a hard thing to recognize, but you are probably going to suffer more than other people. Even if things are, even if life gets better, you will probably suffer more because trauma stays with you. But you will be a better, you will be a better version of yourself one day. And you just really need to remember that you deserve it to become a better person for yourself, and just make sure you identify what you want. Never lose sight of who you are and what you want as a person. As long as you stay true to yourself, one way or the other, you will find your way out.
Perfect, perfectly explained. Let's move to the questions in the chat. The second question we have received is, how has your personal experience with mental health shaped your academic and advocacy work?
um I think greatly, because mental health was the first thing I started working on as a young activist. The first society I ever started was on me first in my university level, and its entire purpose was spreading awareness about mental well-being and eliminating the stigma around mental health. It's also been one of the biggest things that I've talked about as a feminist activist later on, because I think one of the things that really is close to me is women's health. Most of the women I know are suffering from some sort of disorder, whether it's PCOS, whether it's depression, endometriosis, adenomyosis, and menopause, perimenopause, extremely bad period pain, and so on and so forth. And I think all of those conditions bring with them mental mental disorders, or let's not call them disorders. All of those conditions bring with them really hard and struggling mental health conditions. And so for every program I design, for example, in Aram right now, the name of my company is Aram. And that's directly from this understanding that we need to do the work we're doing Aram se in slow and intentional manner. And that's because I want my fellow team members to have a good mental health at their workplace. And so I feel like that mental health has run side by side to every single advocacy I've done. It's not a topic that I treat as separate to everything else. It's actually just mainstream and embedded in every discussion I have.
Perfect. And the third question we have received in the chat is, many people in Pakistan still view mental health as a taboo topic. What helped you find the courage to speak out publicly?
I think I mentioned that previously as well, that I was a very angry young girl who was really mad at the world for being bad to women, and to so I was just a person who did not need positive inspiration. I was a person who was like, I'm gonna say my piece, and if anybody hates me, they can hate me. So it started out because I was like that, and then slowly, of course, you change and you grow as a person. But my core desire was that if I can be the first person someone has seen talk about this, that would just make everything I go through worth it. So I didn't mind being the person other people were talking about.
Really appreciate your perspective on that. And the fourth question we have received is, how can universities and schools create safer, more supportive spaces for students, faculty, and faculty struggling with mental health issues?
Believe it or not, it's my university in Pakistan actually, that I was struggling with extremely bad depression in my undergrad days, and my professor sat me down. He signed me up for mental health counseling, and that was the start of my journey towards mental well-being. And I think that's exactly how other people need to do it. They need to create those safe spaces. They need to direct students who are clearly suffering or are at risk to the services that are available on campus. Professors need to be kinder to students who are struggling. Someone I know has struggled greatly with their mental health, And the way their professors supported them was they would cut them, they would give them breaks, they would provide them extensions, they would even agree to take their exams separately when they're having a bad time. So it was very much about care. It was very much about making sure that the people who are in power in these institutes care about the students. They care about the people. They identify signs of risk and they respond to them in a personal manner, not in impersonal ways where at the start of a curriculum you just tell them this is where the counseling is. And this is something I'm telling you from my experience in the US university, because there every time at the start of every single subject and course are syllabuses, the numbers to the on-campus counseling sessions will be written. And it was impersonal because the thing is, I know the number. People suffering and struggling know that there are doctors out there. They need someone who cares enough to take them to the doctor. They need someone who cares enough to check on them. And that's what the difference between my Pakistani university and my US university has been. In my Pakistani universities, my professors sat with me when I broke down, and in my US universities, when I broke down, I didn't really hear back from anyone. And I think that there was a cultural element of care that we have that's so precious, and it would be really, really cool for us to recognize that element of care as a strength of our universities and spaces. In the end, we need to sensitize our professors, we need to sensitize our teachers, we need to sensitize university management so that they respond to students who are suffering with care. They are informed and trauma informed methods to engage with these students so that when they are providing care, they don't end up causing more harm. We need to have free mental health services at schools, at colleges, because students cannot afford to pay 4,000 rupees a session. They absolutely cannot. So those 12 sessions that I got for free absolutely were life changing for me.
Thank you, Myra, for the insightful answer. I'm in a little faster pace because we are
No
in
way.
the last 15 minutes. I want every of the all of the questions to be answered. So moving on to the next question, what strategies have you found effective in balancing professional achievement with self-care, which is very important?
Yeah. So one of the things that I have found most helpful is um, I used to walk very fast. My friends would tell me, Myra, you're always running. You need, and something that helps me see that running, that fast pace of walking was like anxiety for me because I really wanted to get everywhere faster and first and make sure everything was okay. The first thing that I stopped doing was walking faster. I started to walk slow, and that was in recognition of the fact that it was all right to get there a minute late, but to get there without panting and without being sweaty because you wanted to be there first. The simple answer for me would be rest. You need to rest. It's and rest can come in many forms. Rest is hanging out with your friends. Rest is watching a TV show you like. Rest is going to sleep all day on a Sunday. Rest is spending time with your cats and pets. The one thing that you should never compromise on, no matter how bad things get, no matter how hard your work is, how bad your routine is rest. And you must always find ways to engage in multiple forms of rest. Do not only turn to sleeping in. Get creative rest, paint, sing, dance, write, have productive rest, spend time with your family. Just engaging in different forms of rest wherever you can be a really nice way to balance little forms of self-care. I feel like self-care sometimes becomes hard when you associate it with buying stuff. Like you have to buy stuff to do self-care, you have to go to a spa to do self-care, you have to go shopping to do self-care. And I think that makes it harder to do self-care and expensive. So it's always a good idea to remember that self-care is quite easy, and it's about rest, and it's about slowing down, and it's about play, it's about playing with your pets and laughing, And yeah, essentially, and like I would highly suggest checking the pace that you walk and intentionally slowing down, uh, because that signals to your brain that it's okay to slow down.
Yeah, that's so relatable. Like reading novels and spending time with my nephews and nieces have always helped me. Like that's a type of rest for me, I guess. That have really that those are the habits which have really helped me in, overcoming my anxiety.
Exactly.
So, yeah, moving to the next question. In what ways do gender expectations in Pakistan affect women's willingness or ability to seek help for mental health concerns?
I think women are treated as super emotional. They are thought as unstable as a default. So when you are expected to be crazy, nobody thinks anything is wrong when you're suffering, because they think women are supposed to cry and women are supposed to suffer and women are supposed to cry during periods and be mad and be angry and be unreasonable and have unrealistic demands and be conniving and be like just all of those things are supposed to be all of those things define who a woman is in our society. When we think of a woman, men will sigh and be like, oh my god, like they think women nag. They think that women are irritating and frustrating. That's the default of expectation of what it is to be a woman. And so, if you're struggling, those are also the symptoms of your struggle. When you're struggling, you will cry more, you will get angry more, you will sleep in more, you will be more frustrated. And so it's very hard for them to, even for women themselves, to understand their suffering, because they're just doing what society told them is what's normal for a woman. So how do they know this is a disorder? How do they not know this is just being a woman? And I think one of the biggest ways you can see that is in periods. Like women who experience really bad periods, women who experience really bad period pain, really bad emotional mood swings with periods, they might not be able to identify something is wrong because they're just told periods are supposed to be painful. They might not know that something is wrong with their body or that their mental health is not supposed to get so bad that they are suicidal every week before their periods. That's PMDD. That's not normal. But you're just told that that's what being a woman is like. So when your expectation of a woman is someone who's suffering, it's hard to support them. And I think that's how gender comes into play. Um, and you can draw the same image for a man as well. A man who's supposed to be strong cannot cry. So a man who's crying is not seen as someone who's suffering. He's seen as someone who's not man enough. So the first response of anyone is not that this man needs help, but rather the first response is this man is no longer dependable. So he loses by crying and getting help. He does not gain from it, and that's it's messy. But in the end, I feel like it's when we understand that these gender expectations are harming us, and it's when we understand that nobody deserves to be in pain and nobody deserves to be miserable regardless of their gender. When we change these defaults, that's when people who are actually suffering can get help.
Completely understandable and agreeable, Myra. If you could reimagine Pakistan's approach to mental health over the next decade, what would that look like, and how can young people be part of that change?
I think
This is
one
an
of the first
interesting question.
I completely agree. I think one of the first thing Pakistan needs is regulations around mental health in Pakistan. Who is giving you your sessions? Who are you going for help? How is the medication regulated? Pakistan needs a licensing body. Pakistan needs systems to support people who have been harmed by the medical system. I think anyone who does a bachelor's should not be giving therapy. If you have a bachelor's in psychology, you're not a psychologist. Okay, you are just someone who did a degree of a very introductory level. You do not have the qualifications to support someone who's going through pain. And that is the first thing as us ecosystem that we need to build, is that institutionalize stronger regulations around who can give therapy, create better patient confidentiality systems so that you are absolutely protected. Whatever you share with your therapist, you know legally you are protected, that the therapist cannot share it and with anyone else. So there's trust in the in getting help. uh, Ensure stronger regulations on prescriptions so people do not get hooked on antidepressants. Create better regulatory systems, create better complaint systems. So if you are harmed by a therapist or you're harmed by a medical professional, you're able to complain about them. I think as young people, it's your responsibility to A, work around making mental health destigmatized, and B, the system that whenever young people talk about these things, the first thing they will say is like, it's okay to get help, you should go see a psychologist. For me, it's been like, yes, you should do that, but then you also need to do activism to change the system. Because if you're sending hurt people to psychologists who might hurt them more, that does not serve your advocacy. You need to make sure that you tell the government of Pakistan and you tell medical professions that there needs to be regulation, so that when we send people, when we destigmatize mental health and send people to psychologists, they are protected. That it is actually a helpful system. So I feel like those are some of the most urgent things on mental health that are on the table.
Yeah, I
I
do agree. And
I just
yes,
want to add
Pavitra.
a little thing here. Along with, I think, mental health professionals for females, it is very important to like regulate the rudeness of gynecologists also in Pakistan, because a lot of things and a lot of girls are going into mental health issues because of the behavior of gynecologist. If I
I know, I know, I know.
correct. Specifically, when a young girl has issues related to endometriosis or PCOS, number one, doctors are in general are not serious about their diagnosis, even if you are consulting the good one. So, in this society, if you are an unmarried girl, it's it's already stigmatized to go to a gynecologist. But in my point of view, after the age of 18, every girl should have a regular gynecologist, regular consultant gynecologist, and she should go for regular checkups maybe after a couple of months. And this is so necessary, and we don't realize it. What's your take on it, Maya? Myra, sorry.
I think that's less about regulation, but I think I would just reiterate there needs to be grievance mechanisms. So if you are harmed by any medical professional, you're able to make a complaint. And I don't think we have that right now. It applies to gynecologists, it applies to psychologists, any form of medical professionals. And I think I don't see any helpful grievance mechanisms as of now.
Yes, I agree too. So the last question is from Miss Gail, Gail Talvia Pulan, our CEO, and she has written there, where is Myra's support system and what does she do to refuel her strength and courage when she has mental and emotional fatigue?
First support system is my bed. I sleep a lot. It's the best way to sort of give me any peace. The second system is my cats. I love them. I annoy the hell out of them. They don't have a moment of peace because of me. So my cats, and then my family, my mom, I think, and then my best friend. I feel like I have a very small circle of people who are my support system, but they are more than enough for me to recuperate.
Yeah, that's hella cute. So if anyone has any questions, please they can unmute themselves or like they can write in the chat box. I'm just pausing for a minute. So if anyone has any questions, they can go ahead and speak. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, Myra, for sharing such thoughtful insights with us today. This was truly inspiring and eye-opening, and I must say you are a very powerful speaker and an inspiring woman to look up to.
Thank
We
you.
also want to thank everyone who joined us today and participated in today's session. Your engagement and presence made this discussion even more meaningful. A special mention and heartful thanks to our partner from the Youth Parliament Health Club K chapter for collaborating with us on this session, even though the representative couldn't be with us today due to network issues, but we truly appreciate their support and partnership. Uh, Before we wrap up, just a quick reminder, we have some exciting in-person activities coming up very soon, so stay connected with us through our social media platform. Follow GirlsFly Pakistan on LinkedIn and Instagram, and don't forget to join our WhatsApp community to stay updated and for upcoming events and opportunities. Once again, a huge thank you to Miss Myra, Miss Gail, and also Youth Parliament Health Club K chapter, and all of you guys for being part of this important conversation. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.